What's going on, everybody? Nick Whalen, Alex Barutha here from RotoWire. We are back with some waiver wire recommendations for the week ahead. I will say, Alex, a little bit of a sparse week for me as far as coming up with names compared to weeks past. Part of that is we have a little bit of a weird schedule coming up. The NBA Cup quarterfinals, semifinals means reduced games for just about every team over the next week and a half or so. But interested in hearing who's on your list. I'll give you a couple guys at the top here to just check for. I noticed DeAndre Hunter was only 23% rostered in ESPN leagues. He's been on a heater for the Atlanta Hawks, the degree to which we have not seen from DeAndre Hunter in quite some time. So I remain a little bit skeptical, but he's the one that really jumped out to me as far as thinking that roster rate should be closer to 45, 50%.
Yeah, Hunter was on my shallow leagues list. He's 37% rostered in Yahoo. Just check for him. If you need points and you're in a category league, he's giving you points in threes right now. The shooting is going to come back down to earth. At the same time, he is taking fewer longer mid-rangers than ever before, so that's good. And it's basically on my shallow leagues list. It's him and Malcolm Brogdon. I would also check for Malcolm Brogdon. He had a knee injury scared the other night, and a ton of people dropped him. I think you still got to roster him in most leagues.
Yeah, it turned out to be nothing serious for Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, you're always kind of waiting for that next injury to come when it comes to Brogdon, but he's kind of taken over the Bub Carrington spot, at least for me in Washington. And you got to ride this as long as we can. Malik Beasley is only 19% rostered in ESPN leagues as well, and I don't know if part of that was in reaction to, he finally had a bad game the other night against Milwaukee, finished 0-4 from 3, promptly bounced back on Wednesday night, went 6 of 11 from beyond the arc. Over the last 15 games, Malik Beasley has given you 19 points. He's given you 4.2 made three-pointers per game. He's taking 10 threes per game in that span. And, he's hitting them at a 43% clip, but that's not that crazy for Malik Beasley. I mean, he was north of 40% last year. So, maybe some regression is coming. I think we'll see, at least not quite as much consistency as he's shown over the last month. But I don't think he's shooting that far above his levels. So I think, that's another guy who, to me, he's probably rostered in deeper leagues or really competitive formats, but should be higher than 19%. Who else you got at the top of your list, Alex?
This is my primary standard league ad, which is Marcus Smart, guard for the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, you mentioned it with Beasley as well. Lots of guys, a lot of people are in daily moves leagues, and a ton of guys get dropped when they have a bad game. So always look on the waiver wire and see if that's the case, because Smart scored 0 points the other night and got dropped in a lot of leagues. I don't care that he scored 0 points, because you're not rostering Marcus Smart 4 points. He's had some injury issues, but he's been playing lately. And in the 10 games this season that he's played at least 20 minutes, he's averaging 10 points. Again, not great. 4.8 assists, 1.6 steals, about half a block, 2.8 rebounds. I mean, you're rostering him for the assists and the steals, which I have a lot of confidence he's just going to continue to provide throughout the year.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. He's missed so much time over the last season and a half that I think some people were just done with Marcus Smart, but you got to remember the pedigree. I mean, he's been super consistent throughout his career, wherever he's been. And, as long as he can stay healthy, I think that's a really good call. I'm going to talk about Yves Missi, who I feel like we mention every week. And I've now in the zone where I regret dropping Yves Missi a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I felt good about it at the time. He had a really rough stretch in the middle of November, missed a game against Golden State before Thanksgiving. And, it's come back and looked like a much more confident player. He's coming off of 23 points and 12 rebounds against the Atlanta Hawks in their last game. He's got at least one block now in 5 straight games. And, he's back to being what looks to be an every night starter for this Pelicans team. Now, they are getting Herb Jones back this week. So, maybe we will finally see the long promised Herb Jones at center situation. I don't really know. I mean, the Pelicans have had so many absences that we don't really have a handle on their rotation, but I feel pretty confident in saying that, especially in a 14 or a 16 team league, Missi's going to see enough minutes that he's going to give you, high field goal percentage points. He's going to give you rebounds, and he'll give you enough blocks to hold value.
The Missi thing is interesting when you think about the Pelicans wanting to start, Herb Jones or Trey Murphy at center this year. But I think that whole idea was revolved around Zion being there and having the rest of this roster. So if Zion's not here, then I don't think they'll feel like they have to go with that small ball lineup. So I think as long as Zion's out, and who knows how long that's going to be, I think Missi will probably at least be in the conversation for to be rostered in standard leagues.
And I think the further the Pelicans fall out of contention, the better that is for just about any young player, especially someone like Missi. I think that you turn into developmental mode, maybe they end up moving some pieces at the deadline. So I think he has some staying power. I do have a handful of guys, Alex, who are, more steals targets than anything else. These guys are all, somewhere between like 5 and 12% rostered in ESPN leagues. Alex Caruso has missed some time. He's going to be back Thursday against Toronto. It's been a slow start for him in OKC, but obviously someone who has put up fantastic steals numbers throughout his career. TJ McConnell is out there in a lot of leagues. Cason Wallace with the OKC Thunder. He has a little bit of a lower ceiling now, though, with Caruso back in the mix. And we always got to give a shout out to our guy, Kris Dunn, who continues to rack up steals for the Clippers.
Yeah, all those guys are good names. If you need steals off the waiver wire, there's usually somebody on a 4-game week who is out there, and you can just grab, and you can hopefully get something like a nice 8 steal week if you luck into it. The rest of my list is mostly deep league guys or streamers. Like we mentioned at the top, a little bit sparse in the wire this week, but Kevin Durant's gonna miss 1 to 2 weeks. When he missed time earlier, Bradley Beal was also missing time, so it's not 100%. I don't think there's one clear must roster guy. What I will say, Royce O'Neal, rostered in 17% of leagues, playing forward for them. When KD was out earlier in the year, O'Neal shot horribly, like 30% across 7 games, but he was still giving you 8 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, and 1.9 stocks in 25 minutes per game. So he's someone I think with KD out, you could look at him. And then there are some other guys in the Suns. Grayson Allen, Ighodaro has started seeing minutes with Nurkic out that I think you can at least check out.
Yeah, I think those are all good calls. I'll throw out Miles McBride as well if you're in need of points and threes. Give you a few assists, to give you a couple rebounds as well, but you're really in it for those first 2 categories. And for a guy who takes as many threes as he does, I mean, one, he shoots a good percentage from beyond the arc, but it's not taking his field goal percentage. He's still 46% shooter on the year. He was north of 45% last year. He's also, high 80s free throw shooter. Doesn't take enough that matters a ton. And he's also giving you 1 steal per game in about 25 minutes off the bench. Knicks are obviously a very starters heavy team, maybe the starterist heavy team in the NBA. So they don't have a deep bench, but McBride is kind of the one guy that it feels like they trust every night in that backcourt. So as far as low-owned players go, I would take a look at him. And, we were talking about the Pelicans earlier. Herb Jones is only 9% rostered right now in ESPN leagues. So double check for him. Could be a bit of a slow ramp up. He wasn't great in the few games that we've seen from him so far. And, he's not exactly a stat stuffer. But at the same time, there's going to be a point in the very near future where Herb Jones will not be under 10% rostered.
I would rather pick him up and see what happens than wait too long.
Yeah.
I don't have that many more guys on my list. I throw out one stash guy who I actually picked up in our 20-team league.
Oh, wow.
While he was hurt, which is hurt. He had a concussion and is trying to get back through protocol. But Rob Williams, backup center for the Trailblazers. This is it's a complete stash, but he should come back soon from his concussion. Donovan Clingan could easily be out another month, if not even possibly more, with the grade 2 MCL sprain. And in 19 minutes per game this season, Rob Williams has given you 10 points on efficient shooting, 6 boards, 1.9 blocks, 1.1 steals, 1.4 assists. We know exactly who Rob Williams is at this point. And then another guy, KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, for the Orlando Magic. He remembered how to play basketball, which is like the main thing about this suggestion. So past 10 games, 2.2 threes on 41%, 1.9 steals, giving you not much of anything else. But if you're looking for a threes and steals streamer right now, I would just pick up KCP while he's playing well.
I'll give you a couple stash guys as well to finish this out. I thought for sure this was going to be the guy that you were going to talk about, Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is yet to play this season. He's like 3-4% rostered right now at ESPN. We still do not have a firm return date for Olynyk, but we got an update over the weekend that he is, quote, ramping up his conditioning for a return to play. So I think in the next week or two, we'll see Kelly Olynyk back in the lineup. Always a really good per minute guy. I mean, you look at what Jakob Poeltl is doing so far this year. They've been just fine at center. Poeltl's not going to keep playing 33, 34 minutes a night. So I think this is a waiver wire video ultimately. But in conjunction with Olynyk coming back, I'd maybe look to sell on Jakob Poeltl, because I think the best days for Poeltl are probably behind him at this point. I mean, Olynyk's usually a 22, 24 minute per game guy off the bench for Toronto. So something to keep an eye on there. I would preemptively grab him if you have a roster spot. And then more of a longer-term stash, but there's been a lot of smoke around the Chicago Bulls as far as that being a team that could trade guys away. I think this is the year that finally happens. Maybe it's not all of Vucevic, Levine, Lonzo, whoever else they want to throw in, but any minutes that open up there, I think we're going to see more Matas Buzelis as the year goes along. He's coming off his best game of the season so far on Monday night.
I saw a tweet that he leads the team in dunks, total dunks this season.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, maybe not saying much when Vucevic is your center.
Yeah, well,
just
but Patrick Williams is going like 2 of 9 on dunks on the year.
Yeah, Buzelis is a good call, good luxury stash if your team is doing well. I'll mention 2 guys on my sickos list. KJ Simpson for the Hornets. He saw 28 minutes against the Philadelphia 76ers the other night and had 8 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, and a steal. He's 1% rostered. I picked up Vasilije Micic, hoping that he would be the guy, and then he had a bad game. I still think Micic can be an ad because I'm not exactly sure which of these guys is going to step up. A 1% roster for KJ Simpson. If you're in a deep league, he had a nice game the other night. And then very quietly, Day'Ron Sharpe made his season debut on Monday, played 16 and 17 minutes in his first 2 games. We've talked about it on the pod. I don't know if on this show specifically, but Nick Claxton can't stay healthy. He's not playing a full complement of minutes. He's just not really playing well at all. And Sharpe is one of the better per minute centers in the entire NBA. Per 36 last year, 16 points, 15 boards, 3 assists, and almost 2 blocks. He's not going to play 36 minutes. He hasn't really shown he can play even more than 25 minutes consistently. But someone that I would pick up just speculative ad.
That's a really good one. And anybody who says we don't go deep enough in these videos, here's your answer. We're giving you Day'Ron Sharpe talk. I just pulled this up, Alex. Last year, he played 20 games in which he saw at least 18 minutes. Didn't play more than 27 minutes in any of those. So we're talking, pretty small, range. But he still gave you 10 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.1 blocks, and 0.7 steals in that sample. So it doesn't need to play big minutes, to be a guy who's viable as a 4-game streamer in a deep league. That's going to do it for our waiver wire ads this week. Please make sure you're subscribed to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball channel. You can catch all of our podcasts live and archived there. Doing 4 episodes per week. You can also find them in audio form on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check out rotowire.com/try, TRY. That'll give you free access to everything on our site, all of our tools, all of our articles, not just for NBA, for every sport. rotowire.com/try.